Unexpected Cargo, Chapter 6. Mary. He listened to Ling as she began a singing chant in her own language. Hearing her sing in her native tongue sounded so right to him. When she spoke the language of the Dragon Clan, she had an accent that didn't fit with the cadences of the language she spoke most often. It took a while to get used to, though no one ever had any trouble understanding her. Then she spoke the princess's name, and her image appeared in the mirror. "Who calls me?" Elena demanded, looking startled. She was tired and worn, her skin just a bit paler than normal, and her lovely dress had a couple of small unidentifiable stains on it. She had not fared well since his last meeting with her. "Lady Chief Ling of the Dragon Clan," Ling answered formally, with a polite bow. "Perhaps my son has told you of me?" Elena relaxed and smiled in recognition, and then said, "Of course I've heard of you, honored lady. Why are you calling?" "Humph! You know why," Ling snorted, as all formality gone now that Elena had given permission to speak via magic. "Is Desert Rat well?" Elena asked worriedly. "Don't you know?" Ling retorted. "I'm all-seeing, but I can't see everything all at once," Elena replied. "I have been too busy trying to survive to keep track of him. Richard's been relentless in his pursuit of me. It's taking all my skill and power to stay ahead of him." Ling nodded in acknowledgment of her plight and replied, "I'll let you speak with him yourself." Then she tied her wooden spoon to her decorative utility belt made of red leather, so that also carried her charms and a jeweled dagger. As Ling stepped aside and came forward, Elena could see him, and he got even better look at her in the mirror as well. She was beautiful, even as tired as she obviously was. She wore a flowing pure white dress with a plunging square neckline that showed off her generous orbs of her breasts. Her hairstyle was styled in masses of black shining curls, half of which were pinned back with a clip he could not see. Her eyes were large and black, with fine eyebrows and long dark eyelashes. Her features were fine, and a bit angular with the foolish lush lips. Her skin tone was a bit lighter than his, and likely because she didn't spend much time in the sun. She was nearly as tall as he was, curvy and athletic in form. He could also see traces of rings under her eyes, a slightly unkempt state of her hair, as well as a few stains that marred her dress. It was as if someone had styled it that morning and then she had done nothing to maintain it. She also looked as if that pretty dress had been worn for a few days without being washed. "Hello, Princess Elena," Johnny greeted her with an angry formal coldness he had never used with her before. Then he gave up all pretense of respect and demanded, "You have something explaining to do about the cargo you gave me to protect?" Elena smiled in relief when she saw him and said, "I promised you I would explain everything once that you made it to safety. I see you made it back to your clan. That's about as safe as you can get, I believe. I don't fault you for being angry, and I don't expect your forgiveness." "I don't remember your promise to me, Princess," Johnny growled. He tapped his right temple with his forefinger and said, "You suppressed my memory, remember?" "The fact that you know that means my spell is wearing off," replied, looking relieved. "Can you hurry up the process?" Johnny demanded, glaring at her. "Yes," Elena nodded. "All I have to do is remind you of our last meeting, and we'll come back to you. But first I would like to hear what happened to you over the last few days. I keep sense of something that was wrong." He started to object. Then a vengeful idea formed up in his mind. He told her everything in great detail, particularly the parts about being captured and his escape over the cliff. To his satisfaction, Elena paled and looked as if she might faint, and she wasn't the type of person to swoon. "Your turn," Johnny prompted after he finished his recount. Elena pulled herself together visibly. She said, "I'm so sorry to have used you like this, especially since you were always so kind to me. When I learned of what Richard was planning, I used my seer's power to look at every possibility, and all but one path. Richard kills my son and forces me to marry him. The only chance my baby has is to hide him in one most unexpected place, inside you. There's no way in creation I would have consented to you doing this to me," Johnny shouted angrily. "You also know that I don't like to get involved with royal affairs." Elena nodded in acknowledgment. Then she said, "I'm aware you wouldn't have given your consent, and that you have no loyalty to any country save your own clan. I know that you engage in illegal activities, such as carrying fleeing slaves to safety, stealing surplus medical supplies, and then doing other things your clan would find useful." "If you check my paperwork, everything is in order," Johnny replied, as he crossed his arms loosely and smiled smugly at Elena. "I'm aware of that, too," Elena replied coolly. "I know you have connections everywhere that help you because they know what you're doing is technically illegal, but morally correct. You still can't prove nothing, Johnny insisted. I know, and I'll never try, Elena smiled indulgently. Then she continued, but this is beside the point. I'm not sure where to start. There's so much to tell you. Start with what happened at our last meeting, Johnny suggested. No, Elena replied after a moment's consideration. Starting there won't make as much sense to you. I think I'll start with the good news. You deserve that much. Good news, Johnny snorted skeptically. Yes, though I am not sure how you'll react this time, Elena said as she straightened herself to her full height, bracing herself. I am your sister. My name was Mary Ellen Smith. Is this some kind of cruel joke? Johnny shouted back, feeling as if she had punched him hard in the stomach. The blue haze in his mind was glowing brightly now, resembling a thin satin curtain with shadows and vague shades just beyond. My sister was taken from me by slavers after my parents were murdered. I never found her. She could be dead for all I know. No, I didn't die. In fact, I was very lucky, Elena said. Jasmine was sold to a brothel, and she was told everyone that she was my mother. No one questioned it, not even me until recently. When she had fallen ill, a sister of Mercy was summoned to see if anything could be done. She came too late. Jasmine faded quickly. Rather than let me grow up in a brothel and likely become a whore myself, Sister Agnes took me to the palace where she lived as a healer and a spiritual guide. The queen saw me being brought in and decided to adopt me. All my life, until several days ago, I never questioned the story I was told. That when my father died of a heart attack in his sleep, foul play was suspected, but proof was found. I looked through the past to discover that he died of natural causes. No one harmed him. James and I are already married for a year by this time, and I recently discovered I was in my first month of pregnancy. Even as we were laying our father to rest, the preparation for my husband's coronation was in full sway. The day James before it was to be crowned, Richard asked that they go for a ride alone in the palace gardens. James never came back from that ride. Richard claimed a man in desert robes came over the wall and tried to rob them. He claimed that he begged James to just give in to the thief's demands, but James refused, tried to fight him, and lost when the thief stabbed him through the heart with his knife. Richard gave him what he had, and the thief took what valuables he could from James's body before fleeing. All evidence found on the scene supported Richard's claims. No one doubted him, and he was crowned king instead. He offered to marry me, and I refused. I had seen what really happened. Richard had not lied. He just neglected to mention that the thief had been hired to kill James so he could get the crown. When Richard discovered that I was pregnant, I knew he would kill my child as soon as he could. James was being the rightful heir. My own son would be next in line in the throne, and Richard saw him as a threat to his newfound power. He would spare my life to marry me so he could claim everything that belonged to James as his own. But if he couldn't eliminate James's son without harming me, he would rather kill me than let the threat continue. So I fled with everyone and was still loyal to James under the pretense I was going to my family's summer retreat to mourn my father and husband. Naturally, I would select my staff to come with me, so it was this way we managed to escape. I knew Richard had a spy in our number and who it was. Rather than kill the guard for working for Richard, I used him instead to pass false information. As we traveled by personal sandship, I spent hours looking at the future possibilities that would save my son and help me overthrow my brother. I knew through my visions that he would be an evil king, and everyone would suffer for his selfish abuse of power. In every future save one, my son died at Richard's hand one way or another. Once I saw one path that would help my son live, and how I might claim the throne for him, I began forming a plan to find you. I told Richard's spy that I planned to give you a message hidden in the royal seal and take it to your people in hopes of gaining their support. Then I let slip that I planned to transfer my baby into one of my handmaidens, and then send them off to safety until I had secured the throne for him. Naturally, the spy reported it to Richard about my plans. He even told Richard that I had already completed the transfer, and he had seen it with his own eyes, though he couldn't tell which handmaiden I transferred my baby to. Of course, the man knew nothing of magic. What he saw was just a light show with a little dramatic acting on all our parts before I sent my handmaidens off with some of my guards. Richard soon had him hunted, but had cast spells on all of them to keep them protected as they escaped. After the spells wore off, they were instructed to lead the chase away from me for a while, before disappearing completely. Finally, I was able to find you and ask you to help me send a message inside a fake royal seal, then for your cooperation. I temporarily wiped your memory and just tell you to protect the seal. Johnny interrupted her as the blue haze faded completely from his mind and remembered everything. I refused to help you because what you wanted to help with dealt with royal affairs. But that was when you told me you were my sister, and you showed me your baby picture. There was no mistaking that face. That baby was my little sister all dressed in silks and satin. I agreed to help you, and you placed three charms on my chest, set them off before I had time to ask what they were for. Part of me still remembered I had agreed to help you, and that was the reason I relented so easily to a request when you cried and batted those big black eyes at me. When I had to run because Richard's guards found us, I thought you had drugged me. He continued as the last memory surfaced. If I had remembered you were my sister, I would have taken you with me. I know, Elena smiled appreciatively. I didn't need your protection. I just needed you to run as far away as possible. I knew where you would eventually go. I don't believe Richard will suspect where I hid my baby. He's very intelligent and resourceful, but what I did was so odd he wouldn't consider it possible. What did you do with the spy, and how did the guards keep managing to track me? Johnny asked. I had the spy executed after I was done with him, responded matter-of-factly. Richard has a black witch in his employ these days. Not a very good one, but competent enough to track your movements whenever you stayed in one place long enough and teleport men and supplies within a few miles of where you were. I was eventually able to sneak some charms into his workroom and mislead the witch into thinking you were anywhere but where you really are. Thanks, Johnny replied with some relief. Black witches were evil and best avoided. He never wanted to run afoul with such ilk. Elena was powerful, so he believed that she would keep the witch from finding him again. Then he asked, You must have gotten curious about me and traced my past when you found out I could save your son. Is this when you found out I'm your brother? Yes, she replied simply. When I went looking for you, I would never have imagined that you would meet me again like this. Johnny shouted at her, feeling overwhelmed. You didn't ask me if I would be willing to help you some other way instead of planting your baby in me. Did you ever occur to you that I might have come up with a better plan? I'm not happy about this either, Elena shouted back. My spells protect you and enable you to safely deliver my son. All of them will wear off in time and your body will return to normal. I said I was sorry, but I have a nation to protect as well as my precious son. If you hate me for that, fine. I won't hold that against you. I did look ahead if you could come up with a better plan, and every path you took, any direct involvement with my efforts to remove Richard from the throne gets you and my son killed. So I can't help you? Johnny asked. He was mortified by the prophecy. He didn't want this, but he was stuck with it. He would never abandon his family for any reason, not even the baby growing inside him. He was a blameless innocent in all of this. Yet he would do anything he could that wouldn't cause his family harm to get rid out of this situation. Just stay hidden for a while, Elena replied. You will need to find a way to send a message to me, a message stating that your people have refused to aid me in my cause, and arrange for Richard to receive it, without him knowing that the message was intended for him. He should hopefully lose interest when he learns that I have no further contact with you. He still doesn't know you are my brother. If he learns that, he will hunt you down and use you as bait to draw me out in the open. He knows how much family means to me. In this plan of yours, did you stop and consider how it was that I'm going to make my living? Johnny growled as he finally gave up trying to figure out how to wiggle out of this situation and started facing it head on. He could see no other alternative now. I can't spend all my time hiding. By the way, that reminds me, your little plan cost me my sand ship. How am I supposed to run a business without it? You'll be compensated handsomely if I get the throne back, Elena replied, trying to assure him. My campaign will not take more than 3 years, perhaps less than 1 year if I'm very lucky. 3 years! Johnny felt faint as he tried to breathe. Not only would he lose profits and potentially lose his business, he could have to give birth to his nephew in that time. He had a vague hope that she would win before that time, and now that hope was gone. Then he brightened a little as an idea occurred to him. He asked, Is there a way to change the spell so the green ward will allow your son to be transferred to a woman? Maybe, but only if I were there directly. Green wards are too complicated to handle long distance, Eleanor replied after a moment's consideration. I wouldn't do it anyway if I could. My baby is safe with you and there's no one else. Johnny breathed slowly and tried not to shout at his sister again, trying for patience and mostly failing. The thought of carrying a baby to term was more than a little unnerving. I'm truly sorry, even if you wind up hating me. I will love you always, Elena said as she wiped away a tear. Just take good care of yourself and my son, and if I fail, Richard will kill me. Tell the truth about his origins so he will know that I love him. I only want the best for him and his country. telling him that he is the rightful heir to the throne. Johnny thought about that and discovered he loved his sister too much to hate her. It wasn't possible even after what she did to him. He was angry with her still, but he knew he would eventually forgive her. She was his baby sister, after all. I don't hate you. I've always loved you, and I will do as you ask, he said quietly. Then he demanded, But you owe me big time, Mary. I expect free access to the palace so I could visit you and my nephew, and I will take you up on your offer of compensation. Elena smiled through her tears and said, Done! All that and more. I'll see to it. You better, Johnny growled.